right, we'd like to welcome you to the Friday Main Event Region Preview Show. We've covered Regions 1 through 4 in Class 2A in the first series of 2A videos. This will be our second of 3 videos on Class 2A as we cover Regions 5 through 8 Lee Teat, the west side of the bracket.
Right.
And the west side of the bracket has bragging rights from last year as Peabody's defending state champs. Should be a solid team again this year, but we're going to get things started by covering Region 5. And I think, in my opinion, Lee, Region 5 is probably going to be very, very balanced again this year. Lewis County won all their games last year, I think, by an average of 17 points a game. Their closest game was against Columbia Academy. Bobby Sharp entering his 32nd year, which answers a question we had in the last video, as head coach there at Lewis County, the longest tenured coach, I think, in the entire state, definitely in 2A. 10-2 last year, 6-0 this year. What's your thoughts on the Panthers?
I fully expect them to be right back in it. One thing that this year, too, obviously for 2A is you don't have Columbia Academy to deal with.
Right.
Moving over to D2. But I tell you what, man, I think Coach Sharp is probably going to get it done. He'll be the first, I think, number 1 team in this region. Preston Purdue, preseason All-State. He's got a big-time tailback in Tig Nash and Justin Nash. So, I don't know, man. What do you think? You think anybody challenges him?
Yeah, I think Forrest, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings that Forrest may be pretty good. Of course, Lewis County did lose Denton Webb and Jared Runyons, who accounted for a big part of their offense last year. So I'm hearing from folks over in the Marshall County area, they feel Forrest under Eli Stevenson, he enters his second season there as head coach, should have a pretty solid squad. Eagleville losing perhaps the best player they've ever had in Ethan Cobb. They've got 6 road games, Lee, so the schedule didn't work out real well for them. I think they struggle probably as much as anybody in this region. 4 starters back on both sides of the ball. But I think if anybody's going to knock off Lewis County, it would probably be the Forest Rockets. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably. I think Lewis County's a solid 1. And probably Forrest, like you said, at the 2 spot with Nick McClendon and Noah Hill as an outside linebacker is really good.
Yeah.
Coach Walker at Eagleville, man, like you said, losing Ethan Cobb, that hurts.
That hurts a lot.
But Coach Walker, man, he's got a lot of experience. We've heard him down on the sideline. He'll get with it.
I wonder how he does, doesn't he? He gets fired up.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be that official. We was at that Forest Eagleville game a couple of years ago. He
lit him up.
He lit him up. That's a good way to put it. He lit him up. But, you have to do that sometimes as a head coach. My concern is with the Rockville school opening, if they haven't already, they're going to draw some talent from Eagleville.
That's right.
Because, those 2 schools are fairly close together, so you've got a 6A school, new facilities. And I'm not knocking Eagleville. Eagleville's facilities are really, really nice, especially for a 2A school. They've got a big track around their field. Press box is nice. I've done a lot of games over there. I love Eagleville. I think they've had some who is it? Is it Tim McGraw? There's some big country singer that lives over around Eagleville. I think he's I'm not sure if I got the right guy. But there's been some outside money that's been filtered into that program to help them out with stuff. So they've got facilities. That's not what the question is. It's the fact that a lot of these kids probably see a path to the college level would probably come easier when you're playing at a Rockville, going up against a Blackman, going up against a Riverdale, Oakland. You're going to get more exposure because Oakland's going to have college scouts at every game they play.
Well, I think initially this may hurt Coach Walker, but a lot of times, when you go to a 6A school, you could be the best player at Eagleville and be standing on the sideline at a 6A school.
So you're a small fish in a big pond.
So I think initially this may hurt Coach Walker, but I think after a year or two,
newness wears off.
The newness wears off. I think it'll stabilize. It'll come back stable.
Yeah. I just wonder. I kind of suspect probably the next enrollment, given the fact that Rockville's going to pull some kids that just by zoning alone,
right,
they potentially drop down to 1A. Yeah, that's kind of what I expect to happen. But yeah, this year I think I kind of expect the Eagle to struggle a little bit. I agree with you. I think Lewis County, with the 5 starters back on offense and defense, probably the team to beat in Region 5. I like Forrest, as you mentioned, Nick McClendon. You got Spencer McCowan at wide receiver, Tate Garvin, good lineman, and then you've got Blaze Sweeney. I mean, they've got talent there at Forrest. It's whether they can put it all together. You know, that's
right.
I think that they've had the talent last year, but some people on Coach T, you know, one of our big sources for football information, they tend to quit when they got down. I don't know how true that is, but this was their fans saying that. So I think if Coach Stevenson can get that, you know, that out of them, then they will compete with Lewis County. Yeah. I think. Eagleville, as we mentioned, down. Loretta, the 4th place team last year. Well, I say 4th because Columbia Academy slid out. They didn't make the playoffs, but they finished 4 out of the returning teams. 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. The Mustangs, led by Zach Brown, John Paul Littrell, Walker Brown, a really good linebacker, along with Eli Green, another good linebacker.
Pretty senior heavy.
They probably going to secure that 4th spot, I think. They'll be contending with Summertown, Leslie Moat's team, 4-6, 1-5, 7 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Your thoughts on Summertown?
I don't see them jumping up into the playoff picture yet. I don't.
Yeah, I don't either, Lee. And then of course you've got Community rounding that out, 1-9. 0-6, and that's I'm graduated from Community, so we didn't have football back when I played, Lee. I probably would have been All-State if I did, but we didn't have a football team, and man, that was my biggest regret growing up. I played baseball, but I never got a chance to play football. Would have loved to play football, but I don't really know. I know back when I was in school, the Community area, we had a lot of athletes, but Community's now in their 11th, I want to say 11th, 12th, maybe year of existence. Right. No postseason games, none. They've never made the postseason. They're not going to make it this year unless, you know, something shocking happens.
Right.
So I don't really know what the issue is there. It stinks because they're 3 miles down the road here, man. I would like to see them do something, but it just hadn't happened.
Well, they're in a pretty tough region.
Yeah, they are, Lee. But I mean, darn, let's go Vikings. Let's get something done, man. Give us alumni something to root for. Yeah, they've got they don't have much back. 3 starters on offense, 4 on, and that may be a good thing coming off a 1-9 team. Maybe some of these younger kids can get in there and get some. And you see the returning starters, mostly juniors. Give these kids some experience, and let's get to the darn playoffs next year. That's what I'm saying, Lee Teat.
All right.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Coach Grooms. That's the ultimatum there, buddy. Region 6, Lee. Region 6, Waverly Central. The Tigers, new head coach Randall Bolden in for Matt McConnell. That's a good coach, replacing a good coach. 10-4 last year, 5-0 in region play. They won their region. That's a team that dominated the region. Won by 39 points a game. Nobody was even close to contending with them. Riverside loses Stone Frost, Coach Frost's son, at quarterback. So I don't think anybody's going to compete with them again this year.
Well, we know Coach Bolden can win. He did it last year.
State title.
And then last year, you know, they played Peabody in the semifinals pretty tight.
Yes.
35-21, which Peabody was loaded with athletes and talent.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say Waverly Central is definitely the 1 seed coming in.
Yeah.
Region 6 for sure.
Octavian Stewart, the wide receivers back, Andrew Rumsey. You don't see what was Stanfield. He's got, I guess this Graham Stanfield is Gavin's younger brother.
Maybe.
I would assume.
Right.
He's a senior. He's listed at quarterback. I don't know that he starts. I haven't got a lot of information on Waverly. Brian Teat is back. I got some kids with some hard names to pronounce. They're killing this old country boy.
I think they still got plenty of talent.
I do too.
I think they'll be the 1 seed, and then I'm looking at Decatur County Riverside. Coach Frost probably right back at the 2 spot.
And we was talking about community league. He kicked off a community program. He was there for 5 or 6 years. He went to Moore County under Pudge for a year or two, and Stone started at Moore County for a year as a freshman, and then he started 3 years at Riverside. So I'm just giving you a little history lesson on Coach Frost. He's been in position to win games, and they had an 11-2 year last year. But his kid, who was a phenomenal athlete, is gone. So I don't know how good they're going to be this year.
Well, they got 4 out of 5 region games at home.
Yeah, that helps.
That helps you a lot.
A lot. They got Lewis County on the road, Lexington on the road, and then they travel to Wayne County. Wayne County, a 1A school, but a very difficult place to win a game.
That's right.
And then Adamsville. Go to Adamsville. They got a pretty tough non-region schedule there. Hickman County, Lee, 5 returners on offense, 4 on defense. They were knocked out by Columbia Academy 24-6 in the first round. What about Michael Harrison's Bulldogs? How do you see them doing this year?
Well, probably be between them and Houston County for the 3 or the 4, I would think.
Yeah.
You could flip. Right now, I think we got Hickman County as the 3rd seed, but you could probably either way you could flip that.
Well, I thought about flipping that based on returning starters, but I think I don't remember what it was. I think I looked that score up last year, and it's a pretty significant win for Hickman County, if I remember rightly, because I thought the same thing.
Right.
I saw that Houston had 15 starters back, opposed to 9 for Hickman. I said, well, we may flip that, but then I looked at the score last year, and it was a pretty good
difference.
Pretty good butt whipping. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Scott Hill, 2-8, 1-4, 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. New head coach, Renard Woodmore in. He was a defensive coordinator at Adamsville the last 11 years. Coached under Brandon Gray, who I think is an excellent 2A head coach. So you kind of wonder what Scott Hill is going to – I think that was a good hire. I'm kind of curious to see how they do and if they stay with that wing T. And then East Hickman, another new head coach, Chris Austin. He's got a lot of starters back, 15 new starters. Either one of these teams make a leap. What's your thoughts with the new head coaches?
I think Scotts Hill probably has a better chance this year than East Hickman because East Hickman's got 4 of their 5 region games on the road.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I think maybe if anybody pushes up into the 4, bumps one of those other teams out, it might be Scotts Hill.
The Lions of Scotts Hill. I like it, Lee Teat. I'll go with you, buddy. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think if it does happen, that would be the team.
Probably.
Looking at Region 7, they call that the slobber knocker region.
Right.
It's always really tough. You got defending state champ Peabody, 14-1. Their only loss last year was to Gibson County by a score of 14-10, Lee. That shock you a little bit?
It did.
They've got a load back, man. They got Darrell Dixon back, who's running back committed to Army already. Had over 1,200 yards, rushing 22 TDs. He's a preseason All-State. They got Cooper Bargus, who we just fell in love with in Cookville last year, quarterback, 1,169 yards, 15 TDs. He also had 1,000 yards rushing, dual threat, one of the best dual threats in the state. Matter of fact, he's a preseason All-State.
Noah Hallbrook, remember that catch?
Oh, best catch we saw, I think.
Unbelievable catch
Great
he made.
Catch. And
preseason All-State, Eli Hammonds, DB, preseason All-State, Jaquez Wilkins. So, as of right now, buddy,
going to be tough to beat.
Going to be hard on Coach Bolin.
Yeah. And we had Shane Jacobs on in our spring show, if you'll remember, Lee, and he's very optimistic about the upcoming season, as he should be. He's 43-11 in 4 years at Peabody, and I knew that he was going to make a good head coach. The guy that came from Mississippi helped me out. former head coach.
Uh,
He named Shane as his successor before he left,
right.
and so I knew that was going to be a good coaching hire. And I feel bad that I can't even. I'm getting old, Lee.
Well, the thing about Coach Jacobs, last year I think was the first time we've got to meet him in person and see him operate.
Yeah.
And when his team took the field down there, and the way they went through their warm-ups and the way they went through their pregame checks and everything, Coach Jacobs reminded me a lot of a college coach, how he handled everything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They were very organized, professional, seemed like they had their crap together. And I really like the guy. I really do, man.
Lee, I think they host Milan week 1. That's really going to tell him where he's at right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Milan very high in our preseason top 10 in 3A. So that's going to be a good gauge for them as to where they're at.
They're fast.
They got Jackson Southside, another non-region game, Obion County. They're going to be very proven going through this gauntlet of Region 7 and in addition to those tough non-region teams.
Right.
Now, looking on down, Union City finished second. Our good friend Darren Bowling, and love Coach Bowling.
Yes, sir.
216 wins overall. He's one of the best in the state. Not many guys can say they got 200 career wins, and he's not that old. At least he didn't look that old, so he's probably got a whole lot more to come.
Oh, yeah.
7-6 last year lead. They did get shut out by Peabody in the third round. But he's got a lot of starters back. He's got 7 back on offense, 8 on defense. Carson Corley, DJ Gray. He's got all-state lineman Neil Brown leading the way, junior. So he'll have him for a couple more years.
Right.
I like the Golden Tornadoes.
I do too. I think last year if I'm not mistaken, I think Coach Bowling had an injury bug. Get him.
He did. Had quite a few
had
injuries.
A lot of injuries. And
early in the season, wasn't it?
Yep. So I'm thinking, this year he'll probably scale it back a little bit and try to keep him a little more healthy.
Yeah.
I could fully see them making a third-round run again.
They've got a season opener at Lake County, so that's another team that's going to get an early test. As we those that saw our 1A show were real high on Lake County. So I think Coach Bowling's going to know where his team's at immediately there with a tough week 1 opener. Gibson County, the only team that was able to get a win against Peabody all season long. Coach Finley's got 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. What do you think about the Pioneers? You see them making any noise?
I think they slide.
Think they slide. Slide how far?
Maybe to the 4.
Number 4.
In that region.
I'm kind of tending to agree with you, Lee. They do have Will Cantrell back at quarterback, Kyle Robertson, defensive end, Matt Watson, linebacker, Jake Patterson, another defensive end, plays a little running back as well, a senior. They got a lot of talent back, man, but like you said, man, this region, top to bottom, probably the best 2A region in the state, I'd have to say.
Yeah, it's probably the most competitive, I would think, because you got McKenzie, Coach Comer. He's got a lot of wins in 20 years over there.
Yeah,
and
been to the state title as well.
Right.
I think they play. I want to say they played South Pittsburgh back in 07, 08, somewhere around in there. So
he was 3-3 in the region last year. Beat Adamsville and Union City.
Yeah.
So McKenzie, could make some noise, but I think Adamsville is the team that's going to probably make the most noise this year that most people probably wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I agree. Brandon Gray, man, if you look at his overall record, Lee, 106-48 in 13 years there at Adamsville. That's a heck of a win percentage. And up until the last couple of years, man, you almost always penciled them into that quarter semifinal round.
Right.
And they struggled the last couple of years, but they've got 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. They got Latham Morris back at quarterback, Blake Bunton, a running back, Brody Austin, a really good wide receiver. I like the Cardinals to make the playoffs this year.
Too, and I like Tucker Johnson, linebacker they got. I like him too. And then that 8-8, coming back, that's huge.
Right.
We'll see. They got 2 road trips to Mississippi.
That's tough. But I mean, really, they're not a long ways from Mississippi,
Right,
provided this. But you're right, going out of state twice is that's tough. Halls is the team that finished last. They've got a new coach in Jason Curtis. He was a former defense coordinator at Halls. He takes over for Scott Blair. Expect them to run that split back veer. 10 starters back on both sides of the ball. I don't think there's anywhere for Halls to go.
I don't think
you
so
would think
either.
with 10 starters, with 20 starters back, you move up, but where are you moving up to? The competition up ahead on Lee is just too tough.
I think so.
All right, Lee, let's move on to Region 8. Region 8, we've got Fairleigh High, which I was really high on Fairleigh last year, as I like Gene Robertson a lot. 17-6 in 2 years. He was a protege under our buddy Rodney Salisbury there at Whitehaven. He's really done an excellent job of setting that program up for success.
Very young.
Very young, exactly. He's got 6 starters back on offense, 10 back on defense. Terry Wilkins, running back, is preseason All-State. He had a big year last year. Thomas Vaughn, Jalen Harris is another preseason All-State, and then Anthony Poindexter is a big tackle that'll be leading them up front, senior. How do you like Fairleigh?
I think they're definitely the one right now in Region 8. It's got a lot of talent. 10 guys back on the defensive side of the ball. And I like the fact that, like I said, Coach Robinson learned from one of the best,
Yep.
in Coach Salisbury. And he's young. I think he relates to the players well. He gets the most out of them. I fully expect them to run the table probably in Region 8.
Yeah, well, they won the region last year by an average of 40 points.
Yeah.
With 16 starters back, they had to be the heavy favorite, I think, to repeat. This region went from 6 teams to 9 teams, but I don't see any competition as far as this squad goes. They got Mitchell, probably the best team, I would say, that could potentially challenge them. They got 6 starters back on offense. Nathan Cole's Tiger squad does. 5 on defense.
Right.
Christian Green. They've got some talent there. And it's only been, 4 years that Mitchell was a 4A team, 5A team, I think
Right.
it was. So they're not far removed from being a much larger, successful program. So I keep saying every year I think Mitchell's going to be a team to contend with, but they just haven't gotten over the edge yet.
Well, they do. They do okay in the region.
Yeah.
And they get into the playoffs, and
It's another team, Lee, we was talking about. Most of their non-region games are the bigger schools, but now that they're in such a huge region,
right, they can't do that.
I think their overall record will be much better this year. Douglas was the 3rd team last year. MAHS was 4th. That's was it Memphis Academy of Health and Science?
Something like that.
Something like that. Sounds good. They were the other playoff team, and then Hillcrest. Hillcrest moved. Which way did they move, Lee? They moved up or down. See, Hillcrest Kip moved up to 2A, and then Tresvant moved down from 3A. So I was thinking I had that note somewhere. Antoine Wellington, his team 5-6, 3-2 in Class 3A last year, lost to Milan 20-7. So I think Tresvant, you'd have to put them in there as a contender, maybe for that 2nd or 3rd spot. Would you agree?
Yeah, Tresvant probably be 3, I would think.
And then, of course, we mentioned Hillcrest moving up. They were 5-6 last year, 5-2 in region play there in Class 1A. Lost to West Carroll. They've got 4 starters back on both sides of the ball. I think that's probably your 4th playoff team out of the region. What's your thought?
Well, it'll be interesting because this is wide open. This whole thing is just wide open. But Kip, they got 8 players back, 8 and 8.
You got 4 new coaches in this region.
That's right.
Hillcrest has Carl Coleman, Jarrell Starnes at Manassas, Antoine Moore at Hamilton, and then Kip has Terrence Harris coming over. He's 25 years old, Lee. He played quarterback and coached quarterbacks at Mitchell the last 2 years. 20. Are you ready to be a head coach at 25 years old? That's asking a lot, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's the trend
That's
lately.
the trend. You're right.
Get us some younger guys in there. But, man, what's good about it, he's got 8 returning starters on each side of the ball.
He should be able to relate to him. He's not much older than his seniors.
So that may be.
Maybe
I'd like to see that. I think they might improve a little.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Who's your first seed in that region? Who you liking?
I like Fairleigh a lot in that region to win. I think Mitchell and Trezvant probably contend for that second spot. That's what I see it. So to recap, Lee, Region 5, you and I really like Lewis County. Forest to be a contender with them. Region 6, we're all over Waverly. I think Decatur County is the only team that may give them a game. I don't see that happening. I think Waverly cruises again in Region 6. Region 7 is the one that's really interesting with Peabody, Union City, Gibson County, McKenzie, and, of course, Adamsville. We think it's an upstart Adamsville team. But we like Peabody to win, to repeat, and go all the way, I think, to the state. Yeah. All right, folks, that's been Regions 5 through 8. We hope you enjoyed the second video in our Class 2A series. Our third video coming up is the Friday main event preseason top 10, and we'll get that video up for you next. I am Mike Molder. He is Lee Teat. As always, we are sponsored by CoachT.com. We appreciate Jim Thompson doing all he does for us. He'll have a link to our show up on the scoreboard every Friday. Lee and I will be live at 4:30 every Friday from different locations. You can go to FridayMainEvent.com and get information as to where we'll be at that particular week. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and make Friday Main Event your preseason destination. We'll see you on the next video.